It's all thanks to our second son being gone. We now have the chance to meet again like this." What I heard from my room were the heartless words of my own husband. In the conversation between my husband and our eldest son's wife, laced with vulgar laughter, I felt a chill pierce through my heart. Even our typically gentle eldest son, who had been watching the screen with me, was trembling silently with anger. "When they return, we need to have a proper conversation." Yes, indeed. I wonder what excuses they'll come up with. Amid the gathering of relatives, the self-incriminating evidence they provided could not have been more convenient. By now, everyone present was on my side and my eldest son's side. Along with our angry relatives, we were anxiously awaiting for the two of them to return, soon to be the targets of our collective anger. My name is Serena. I'm 64 years old this year. I had believed I was just another average family, having raised 2 sons. But only recently, I realized how such ordinary happiness could be shattered so easily. I had lost my younger son in a car accident, and I was sinking into despair. Why did Carlos have to be in such an accident? Enough already, don't you think? How long are you going to keep moaning about the past? Despite our son's sudden death in an accident, my husband harshly dismissed me with cold words. Moreover, even with the upcoming funeral, I felt my heart freeze as I saw my husband without a single tear in his eyes. At the signal of our eldest son coming to pick us up, I heard a single honk from outside. I put our pet cat in the cage and headed for the entrance. But who would have thought that Carlos would have been gone so soon? You too, Lucas? You and your son are so depressing. Isn't it natural? I'd rather ask, how can you be so calm? Father-in-law is just trying to send Carlos off with a smile, isn't he? That's right, that's exactly it. Even in the car, my husband's attitude didn't change. He said those words while laughing loudly, ha ha ha. Even the wife of our eldest son was smiling as she watched my husband. The two of them have this way of making remarks that grate on your nerves, even on a normal day. Usually, I'd just let it slide, knowing their character from years of experience, but not today. The thought of a biological father's heartless words and my son's wife defending such words was unbearable, considering how much our eldest son loved his younger brother. I slapped my husband's knee, who was sitting next to me, and pointed out, "Enough is enough. Despite our family's misfortune, how can you be so cheerfully indifferent?" Ouch. So what, you want me to put on a gloomy face? I'm just asking for some decency. We're not children, so don't be loud at the funeral home. No matter how old you get, you remain a nagging, strict wife. As if he could not let my words go unanswered, my husband retorted with childish insults, appearing agitated. Feeling the tension fill the car, and realizing further discussion would be futile, I sighed, staring out at the window. I understood, as my husband said, that it wasn't necessarily better to cry or grieve. That's why I thought the best we could do was to see our second son off to his peaceful sleep quietly. That was my only wish, but these two wouldn't even allow that, and they were about to create a huge mess. Catching up with relatives at the venue, we exchanged quick greetings, chatting about old times with those who had come from afar. Those who had once adored our second son. I couldn't help but tear up. This has been such a heartbreaking time for you. Carlos was such a sweet, good boy. I can't believe he was just on the brink of adulthood. Thank you for your condolences. Every time our second son's name came up, I gave them a firm hug, expressing my gratitude. Meanwhile, my husband showed no sign of remorse for his behavior in the car. Instead, he was loudly chatting about golf and other fun topics with a relative he hadn't seen in a while. How about it? Want to hang out together next time? Ken, isn't today your son's funeral? I didn't say we should go today, did I? That would obviously be inappropriate. Will you stop already? How many times do I have to say it? I reprimanded my husband in a low voice. He was so absorbed in his own world. I felt like I was scolding a child who had no manners. But my husband just brushed it off with a dismissive gesture, not even bothering to hide his annoyance. Does he really understand what today is about? I furrowed my brows at my husband's behavior, wondering how things had come to this. Was he broken by the shock of our second son's death? Well, Margareta does it too. At home, she's always comparing me and my dad. Is that so? My oldest son's words stirred unease in my heart. I wanted to believe there was a reason for my husband's behavior, like stubbornness that comes with age. But seeing the disappointed look on my oldest son's face, I couldn't help but look over at the two of them. Although they were quieter than before, they were still smiling and chatting together. I shook my head. They do seem too close. Right? But Dad's already 65. He wouldn't have inappropriate feelings for his son's wife. Surely not. There's an age gap. They wouldn't do something so embarrassing. Jokingly, we continued to chat and laugh. Perhaps somewhere deep down, my son and I were hoping and reassuring each other that it was true. But despite our worries, the two of them continued to chat happily. During a break in the funeral, I noticed my husband heading toward the exit of the venue when I went to the restroom. Following him, I saw my daughter-in-law by his side, just about to step outside. Hold on, you two. Where are you going? Oh, it's you. Margareta said she's not feeling well, so I thought I'd let her get some fresh air outside. Is that so? Are you okay, Margareta? Yes, I think I'll be fine if I rest a bit. After watching the two of them leave, I returned to my seat and whispered the situation to my eldest son. He seemed surprised that his wife was feeling unwell and that they had stepped out together. Ah, so that's why he borrowed the car keys. Wait, they went in the car? I wonder where they're going. Maybe they didn't want to worry us. It would have been hard to bring up with me in this state. Pointing to his tear-stained eyes, my eldest son responded. I couldn't help but wonder if those two were capable of such thoughtfulness, yet I didn't pay much attention to it at the time, thinking it was simply their nature. However, when the two didn't even return when it was time for the meal after the funeral, we couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. How'd it go? No good. I tried calling them but couldn't get through to either of them. I hope nothing serious happened. My eldest son had tried to reach out to them, but to no avail. I had sent an email myself, but there was no response. My eldest son's car hadn't returned, and we were at a loss each time a relative asked us about their whereabouts. Did they get so sick that they had to go to the hospital? If that's the case, they should at least let us know. They're not dogs or cats. They'll come home eventually. Cats. Oh, I wonder how our cat is doing. While talking with the relatives, I suddenly remembered the pet cat we had left alone in my room. I took out my mobile phone and activated the pet camera. For some reason, our cat was out of its cage and I could hear someone's voice. Huh? Upon hearing the unexpected human voice, I initially felt a chill as if a burglar had broken into our house. But the voice that was casually picking up our cat was something we had heard quite often. Margareta? And doesn't that sound like Dad's voice too? Wait, are they saying they've come home? I exchanged glances with my eldest son and continued to stare at the screen in confusion. When I increased the volume coming from the mobile phone, I heard an unbelievable conversation. Isn't this cat cute? Can we take it home? What's the point of keeping an old cat? I'll get you a much cuter kitten. Yay, I love you, father-in-law. Just when I thought I heard such sweet voices, I could see my bed shaking in the corner of the screen and heard it creaking. I was just listening to their conversation in disbelief. Taking advantage of the fact that no one else was listening, the two were casually talking bad about me, my eldest son and second son. I'm not good with stiff ceremonies like that. My strict wife is always nagging, saying I have no manners. You really got scolded, didn't you? I felt sorry for you, father-in-law. Right? But thanks to the second son being gone, we got a chance to meet like this again. After such outrageous words from a parent, I heard that vulgar laughter. I felt a cold chill running down my spine. The usually calm eldest son next to me seemed to be shaking silently in anger. Can you believe that's what a father says? Maybe it's better to not think of him as a father anymore. Beyond anger and astonishment, there was just silence in my head. As I looked up, the relatives were chatting at the dining table. At that point, I could no longer think. I turned the volume of my mobile phone to the maximum and decided to attract the attention of the relatives. What's he doing? He left the funeral and is doing this with his son's wife? So the sickness was a lie. Did they want to be alone that badly? When I turned up the volume, the unusual conversation of the two made the chatter stop, and everyone's attention was focused on us. The somber atmosphere seemed to have dissipated as everyone glued their eyes on the tiny screen of my mobile phone, listening intently to the absurd conversation between the two. What if another unexpected accident happens? Then I could come visit father-in-law again. Maybe Lucas will be next. But before that, it will be my strict wife, right? She's getting on in years, so it should be soon. The relatives widened their eyes at the two, who were making light of the second son's misfortune and even joking about their next clandestine meeting. A hushed silence fell over everyone, and no one spoke until the two finished their conversation. After letting the relatives witness the whole discourse and actions of the two, I closed my mobile phone as we began discussing returning to the venue. It seemed as if everyone's hearts were united in anger at the two, who were trampling on our family. We'll need to have a proper talk when they get back. Indeed, I'm curious to hear their excuses. By this time, everyone present was on my side and the eldest son's side. We were all waiting, on tenterhooks, for the imminent return of the two, who would soon be under our concentrated attack alongside our seething relatives. It was about 15 minutes later when the two returned. That's roughly how long it takes to get from our house to the funeral parlor, so they must have been having that conversation in my room until just now. I looked at the two with a feeling of contempt. We're back. What's with all the long faces? Welcome back. Where have you been? We were worried because you took so long. Didn't we tell you earlier? We stepped out because Margareta wasn't feeling well. Oh, Margareta, are you feeling better now? Yes, I'm perfectly fine now. Sorry to have worried you. With a frivolous laugh, the eldest son's wife waved at me, and I prompted her to take a seat opposite me. Seeing her husband sit next to her as if it was the most natural thing in the world, I let out a sigh. As soon as they sat down, all the relatives turned to look at us. A little surprised and visibly uncomfortable, the two were bombarded with my questions one by one. What were you doing all this time? We were just around until she felt better. Around where? Around a family restaurant. I see. Then where's the receipt? Why the hell are you so suspicious? It was the husband who first raised his voice at my pointed questions. He frowned and glared at me as if there was no reason for him to be suspected. But after hearing their conversation just now, I had no more hesitation. Were you really at a family restaurant all this time? I've told you so. I threw away the receipt. Well then, what did you eat? What about you, Margareta? Mother-in-law, isn't this too much? What are you suggesting we did? I was left speechless and my face twisted at the words of my eldest son's wife, who covered her mouth and pretended to be on the verge of tears. Who's really the cruel one here? I wanted to shout at her and put a hand on her chest and think about it. In front of the watching relatives, I took a deep breath and prepared to deliver the final blow to the two who continued to play innocent. I pointed at her sleeve. Oh, Margareta, there's some cat hair on your sleeve. I wonder whose it is. This is, well, A stray cat, right? Yes, I must have gotten it on me when I petted a stray cat we saw earlier. That's not it. It must be from our cat. You got it on just now, didn't you? I whip out my phone, activating the pet camera app I'd installed earlier. It's a handy tool that also records. Right there and then, I replay the scene of my son's wife lifting our cat in front of everyone. I replay their terrible conversation we'd all been watching at maximum volume. Upon realizing the implications of everyone's frosty gazes, the pair visibly pales. You knew about this all along. Why, yes, I found it hilarious that you two thought you could play dumb forever. That's a violation of privacy. Quite ironic coming from someone who sneaks into others' rooms to enjoy time with another's husband. Finding out they had been caught, the two throw a tantrum like petulant children. I remain calm, tirelessly pointing out their faults. It was my son who reached his breaking point due to their blatant lack of remorse. He slams the table forcefully, starting to reprimand them in a low, stern voice. How dare you mess around during a family member's funeral? No, your mother-in-law trapped us. What's the difference? We heard everything you two were saying. Nods of agreement ripple through the crowd at my son's words. No one here was going to defend them for wishing ill upon my son and me, even as a joke, just so they could meet privately. When I pointed this out, the two looked angrily at my son upon realizing the agreement among everyone present. You set this up just to shame us. Absolutely not. It was pure coincidence. I was trying to check on Calico and you two just happened to be in frame. It's awful to air our dirty laundry like this. I never imagined anyone could stoop so low at such a gathering. And I'm the loyal wife here, am I not? While repeating my husband's words, I glance at him. With the tables turned, my husband said nothing more and didn't even defend my son's wife. She tried to plead her case and insult me to evade blame, but no one listened. That's enough. I can't bear to be a family with someone like you who can do such a thing. Are you saying you want a divorce? Of course. With that, my son calmly addressed his wife, who finally fell silent. She tried to scramble to her defense again, but he paid her no attention. As my husband, acting like an outsider, tried to comfort my son's wife, I cleared my throat. Do you think this has nothing to do with you? What? How could you do this on the day we were bidding farewell to our son? You shamelessly lied and didn't even apologize until now. I'm sorry. No need. I don't want an apology just from your lips. Let's divorce as well. My husband's face turned pale at my words. I wonder why he ever thought he would be unaffected. He had never taken care of his surroundings. Without someone to look after him, he'd struggle. I turned my back on my husband, who's lamely trying to apologize, and opened the room door. I don't want people who are about to become strangers staying here any longer. Please, leave. Give us back the car keys, a voice demanded. My eldest son's wife looked at her husband, a desperate plea in her eyes, but he could do nothing. Prodded by the relatives, they trudged out of the room. I'll introduce you to my company's lawyer. My son's a cop. Call us any time if something happens. What a shameless man showing up at his son's funeral like this. The relatives gave us words of comfort as if to protect us from the harsh reality. After the funeral, the couple were forced to sign divorce papers. My eldest son's ex-wife later ran to her own parents, begging for their help with the compensation negotiation for the divorce trial. She tried to play the victim as she did before, but her parents were understandably appalled. Now she's working day and night to pay the compensation awarded in the divorce trial. As for the ex-husband, it was discovered that he had drained his own savings, pouring everything into his former wife's wants. He was left penniless, and the family house was awarded to me as compensation. With the divorce settlement, the house became mine. Even so, there were too many painful memories associated with the house, especially my former bedroom, shared with the ex-husband and his former wife. so I decided to sell the house and move to a pet-friendly apartment. With the haughty ex-husband out of the way, I am now enjoying a tranquil life with my pet cat Calico. Being alone and free with my cat is far more comfortable than I expected. I didn't realize how stressed I was living with my ex-husband. After the divorce, my eldest son comes to visit me from time to time. He seems to be leading a calmer life and even told me that he's doing better than before. He recently shared some good news about a promotion at work. To celebrate, we decided to go out for a meal, and during that outing, we bumped into the ex-husband. He looked drastically different, more like a timid old man than the defiant person he used to be. There was no fire in his eyes, and it took us a while to recognize him. He approached us, a look of shock on his face. "Hey, there are different people living in our house. What's going on?" he demanded. "Our house? It's not yours anymore, at least," I responded. "Did you sell it? Why would you do that?" In a hoarse voice, the ex-husband raised his voice at me, the arrogance of old returning. Perhaps he had gone back to the old house, hoping to claim it back, or maybe he thought he could persuade me to forgive him. Either way, his attitude showed no signs of remorse. Seeing my son's disgusted look, I stepped in and said, "Why on earth would I want to sleep in the same room where you had been so cozy with your former wife? I have no need for such a house." At that, the ex-husband looked taken aback. He turned around and walked away. Had he forgotten what he had done in the past? It dampened our celebration, but we decided to enjoy the sunny afternoon. And so we resumed our walk under the beautiful afternoon sky.